الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله نبينا محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين. One of the brothers was very worried about that at least 6 countries from the Muslim countries were stopped from coming in the country. He was very worried. It's like calamity came from the heaven. Allah Azza wa Jalla said in His Quran, "Asa an takrahu shay'an wa huwa khayrun lakum, wa asa an tuhibbu shay'an wa huwa sharrun lakum." You may dislike something and it may be good for you, and you may like something and it may be bad for you. Wallahu ya'lamu wa antum la ta'lamun. Allah knows and you know not. And many ayat indicate this meaning, that whatever seems to you difficult may not in reality be difficult. Rather, some of it may be good for you. And the story of Prophet Musa and al-Khadir, who Allahu A'lam is a prophet, is enough to know that many things which happen and seems to the eyes of the people, calamity, corruption, problems, may not be the case. Rather, it may be good for them. As for this issue, it's known in Islam, it's not allowed a Muslim to live in a non-Muslim land. A non-Muslim land means where the majority of the people are not Muslims, and therefore they don't go by upon Islamic teachings. In the Muslim land where the majority of the people are Muslims, so they have their deen, they are upon Islam and free to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's known that the Islamic rule is that Muslims are not allowed to live in a non-Muslim lands unless necessity, in few cases. And the reason is because it hurts the believers, the Muslims, to be in a non-Muslim land. That's why Allah forbade it. Otherwise, if it would have been good, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would have legislated. Because everything Allah legislates, subhanahu, is for the benefit of His slaves, not for Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. عز وجل يا أيها الناس أنتم الفقراء إلى الله والله هو الغني الحميد. So it is the creation who need Allah. Allah is sufficient. As in the Hadith al-Qudsi, if all people would have been upon the best heart, the most pious, who is the Messenger Muhammad alayhi salam, that wouldn't increase Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala azza wa jal al-mulk shay'a. On the other hand, if all of them would have been upon the worst of them, that wouldn't hurt Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you have dalil aqli, intellectual proof for that, is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala caused the messengers of Allah, the prophets of Allah, and those who follow them die. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala let many disobedients live. So if the ibadah would have benefited Allah anything, Allah wouldn't cause the messengers of Allah and the righteous ones to die. Would have leave them to worship Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. On the other hand, Allah wouldn't let any of His enemy live if the disobeying Him subhanahu wa ta'ala hurts Him azza wa jal. Rather, Allah huwa al-ghani. So when Allah forbade a Muslim living in non-Muslim land, is for the benefit of the Muslims. And today you see what happened to the Muslims when that gate was open for them. How many hundreds of thousands of Muslims die on the ocean while they're trying to go to there and there, non-Muslim land? Thousands, hundreds of thousands, over a million maybe. Allahu A'lam. How many of them Muslims who from generation to generation used to be Muslims, but when they moved to a non-Muslim land, they left their deen, many of them. How many Muslims suffer even for worldly matters in a non-Muslim land, more than they suffer in the Muslim land? How many youth, how many people are in jail? Uncountable. How many lost their religion? How many lost their manner? How many lost their health? How many were corrupted? And Allahu A'lam the future. We may see sometimes with some individual or some situation that the Muslim, he improved even in his religion, in his worldly matters. But Allahu A'lam the future. Allahu A'lam the future. So Muslims shouldn't worry, grieve for that. Rather, he should know that was the origin. Rather, those who are here are required to live. You do not know, maybe what make those countries of Muslim countries go through, what they go through is the belief that they may go overseas. Whether it's the leaders or the sha'ab. If everybody would have known he has no way out, people maybe would have tried to fix their problems. Imagine if you're planning to move a state or to leave a country. How you don't live as if you reside there, you believe you be forever. Al-Muhim, a Muslim, to be happy with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decree. Yes, you may say, why if it's not better for them, the Muslims, they go into those countries, why they go through all those difficulties, die on the ocean? That doesn't necessarily mean the reality. Allah mentioned in His Quran, subhanahu wa ta'ala, that the meaning that out of His mercy, He didn't open the gates of worldly life for the kuffar. He didn't make, subhanahu wa ta'ala, their houses made of gold, silver, all kind of beauty. While He, subhanahu wa ta'ala, could and can. But it is because the human are the same when it comes to the being attached to the worldly life. So if Allah would have made that for the kuffar, their houses made gold, out of gold and silver, and let alone the rest, that would have affected the believers as well, except those whom Allah protected them. Allah said, as Allah said, subhanahu wa ta'ala in Quran, what's the ayah? Surah Zukhruf. ولولا أن يكون الناس أمة واحدة لجعلنا لمن يكفر بالرحمن لبيوتهم سقفا من فضة ومعارج عليها يظهرون ولبيوتهم أبوابا وسررا عليها يتكئون وزخرفا. So Allah didn't make that for the kuffar. Why? Because out of His mercy, subhanahu, they would have lived many Muslims, believers, because of how we are attached to the worldly life as a human, to go after the dunya, to leave the deen of Allah. Even though Allah didn't make that, subhanahu wa ta'ala, that worldly life in that way, but yet you see how people are running after it, except those Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected them. So because the people they want doesn't necessarily mean that is good for them. And also it should be remembered that Allahu A'lam the long future. Many countries there used to be Muslims a few years back, 100 years back, and if you go after them, you try to find, maybe you don't find them. Where were they? They went with the ocean. Rather, some of those who call people to Christianity, they talk about the issue that it's very difficult to find a Muslim who live his deen in a Muslim land. So they see as a benefit to see the Muslim in non-Muslim land. In a way, even one of them, he said, who make research on that, he met with a Christian minister who's from Italy, who was spending in a Muslim land over 30 years to call them to Christian, and he only found 2 people. 30 years. And how much money he spent, how many names he used, but only 2. So they have seen that taking the Muslims, especially the children, especially those who are not educated, and moving them and sending them to their lands, subhanallah, then they found that this is the easiest way. So al-muhim, a believer to see the like of those rules is against the destroy the Muslims, so they should grieve for it. Wallahu a'lam. It's not sound understanding. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to rectify all of our affairs. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us good ending. Innahu subhanahu wa ta'ala barrun kareem. Sallallahu wa sallam barak ala nabiyina Muhammad.